Before I get started, I'd like to just say a little bit about my background. I'm the president of Comprehensive Wealth Management. I'm also the president of a certified public accounting firm in New York that specializes in working with dentists. We do work with dental practices across the country. I'm a certified financial planner, have a master's degree in taxation. I am securities licensed, insurance licensed, pretty much anything financial related. I am qualified and uniquely positioned to work with you in those areas. We're going to move on to the next chapter. The next chapter is preserving your estate. So you could read that quote. And I love this Benjamin Franklin quote because it's so true. Only two things that are certain in life is death and taxes, right? Pretty sad. So what is estate taxes? Well, the government literally taxes you to death throughout your lifetime. We already talked about that. Income tax, payroll tax, real estate tax, capital gains tax, you name it, you literally get taxed to death. Guess what they do once you die? They tax you for dying. As crazy as that may seem, that's what they do. So on your deathbed, the day after you pass on, eventually you have to present to the government a list of your statement of net worth. Remember what we talked about in one of the earlier chapters? The government will ask you to list out all of your assets, all of your liabilities, and depending on what your net worth is, they're now going to tax you on that value of your estate. Pretty scary stuff. The good news is that right now, under the current tax law, that estate tax threshold has gone up significantly. It's over $10 million per taxpayer. So if you're a married couple, you could pass on to your family, your heirs, your children, more than $20 million at the federal level, completely estate tax free. Not too many years ago, that number was only $1 million. And what that meant was that any amount over $1 million that you leave to your children, the estate tax rate above that is 40%. So I've never heard anybody say, when I die, in my will, I want to specify that I want to leave 40% of my net worth to the federal government. I've never come across someone who has said that that was what their intention was. But if you don't do the proper estate planning, especially, and again, even if it doesn't apply to you, we may be talking about your parents or grandparents. If you do have people in your household, family members that are very well off, they clearly need to do some estate planning to minimize the estate tax. The key is, legally, you want to find ways to give the government as little as possible upon your death and to give more to your family, because after all, that's what all these years of hard work and sacrifice has been for. It's been for you to enjoy and ultimately one day to leave that legacy to your children. So what if you're not extremely wealthy yet? You still need a will, a healthcare proxy, and a power of attorney. These are important legal documents. Now, again, I can't say that everybody needs a will. If you have one bank account and is jointly owned with one of your parents and you have no other assets, you really don't need a will, because your parents will have access to that bank account. You'll avoid probate. But most people, their financial situation isn't quite so simple. So even if you don't have a large amount of assets, perhaps you have young children. God forbid that you and your spouse pass away in a common tragedy. Who's going to care for your younger children? Well, you're going to list that and make it known in your will. That's the purpose of a will. It's not just a financial thing. It's so that your wishes could be carried out when you're no longer around and not able to express how you feel about it. And the last thing you want to do is have your family, your parents, and your spouse's parents fighting in family court over who's going to get custody of your children. So that's just one of many examples I could give you as to why you want to consider having a will. The other two important legal documents is a healthcare proxy and a power of attorney. I would strongly recommend that you speak to a lawyer about getting these documents drafted. If you're a pretty straightforward situation, it shouldn't be that costly, but I do believe that these legal documents are very important just to keep your financial house in good order. Healthcare proxy, of course, will give you the opportunity to state if you're on life support, what do you want to do? What would your wishes be? You don't want to leave that important decision to a loved one, because then it comes with a great deal of guilt if they feel that they may not have done the right thing. And a power of attorney is a nice document to have as well, but it has to be drafted correctly so that in the event you became totally disabled, someone would be able to act on your behalf. So each of these chapters I could spend days on. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg on each of these subjects so that each of you at least have a basic understanding. These are the things I need to consider. These are the things I have to worry about. What have I done towards protecting myself and growing my wealth in the future? The answer to all those questions, of course, is outlined in my book and in a lot more detail than I can do in this short presentation. So with that said, we just covered the first 10 chapters of my book, which have to do with personal finance and achieving personal financial independence for yourself. As I said, I am the writer of this book. It's a second edition. It's loaded with wealth of information. I would encourage each of you to pick up a copy of this book. And if you have any other questions, I left up on the screen here my contact information. It was my pleasure speaking to you guys today. I'm hopeful that you found at least one or two things that you're going to put into place immediately in your own life that will make a big difference in your life. With that said, thank you for coming, and look forward to speaking to each of you again soon.